Baltimore.
Charm City.
Neighborhoods full of history, great people, and lots of potential.
A city trying to clean up its act after years of decay.
A place where children should be safe to play on clean streets.
But the pockets of problems are growing. Grime and crime make for bad neighbors.
Even the once pristine parts of our wonderful city are in the fight of their lives.
To stop a city plagued by crime, grime, corruption, and failing schools.
From Fox 45 News, this is a Your Voice, Your Future Town Hall, the Save Our City Tour. Neighbors helping neighbors, council district by council district.
It is the home of the second jewel of the horse racing Triple Crown and one of Maryland's most iconic landmarks. But today, the Pimlico Raceway, where a colt named Preakness won the first race in 1870, stands as a monument to a neighborhood that has seen better days at times. Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson, coming to you from the Sweet Hope Baptist Church in Baltimore's 6th Council District. The pastor here, Terry Thornton, he's been here for 19 years, and we are thankful to him for hosting and allowing us to host this town hall here tonight. Well, tonight we'll hold our second Your Voice, Your Future town hall, the Save Our City Tour. Our goal is very simple, to help make Baltimore better. The people are telling us that they need their voices to be heard and solutions to be heard as well. Now, we invited the top elected leaders for the 6th District. Councilwoman and Vice President of the City Council, Sharon Middleton, initially accepted our invitation and then canceled, saying that she has a conflict. Now, we offered to move the town hall to any day at any hour that would have accommodated her. Her assistant told Fox 45 that she's booked solid for the next 2 months. Now, we also invited Mayor Brandon Scott to attend. He, too, is refusing to hear from the people. Now, Council District 6 is in the northwest portion of Baltimore. A once thriving area is now marked at times by vacant homes, high crime, and even higher poverty. In the Park Heights neighborhood and community, for instance, nearly half of the workers earn less than $25,000 a year. The median household income less than $29,000 a year, and nearly half of the children live below the federal poverty line. Now, we have an outstanding panel of guests, and we want to thank each of them for attending tonight to discuss the problems and offer solutions for District 6. Will Hanna is the CEO of the New Park Heights Community Development Corporation. Taurus Barksdale is a former candidate for the 6th district here, City Council District seat, and also a community activist. Stephen Copeland is the founder of Strengthen Our Communities, LLC, and a District 6 native. Pless Jones is a small business owner, and he is co-founder of the Equality Equation with his wife, Elizabeth Jones. We want to thank Pless and Elizabeth for joining us too tonight. And of course, Reverend, we want to thank you for hosting this town hall here in your beautiful sanctuary. By the way, Sweet Hope Baptist Church, built in 1936. I found out from Reverend Thornton, a wonderful sanctuary, and he's been here for 19 years. So again, we want to acknowledge here tonight that Mr. Copeland, you're a 6th Council District native. What's happened to this area, in your estimation, and to this area of the city that has it in the state that it is right now?
Thank you. I'm going to just acknowledge this guy right here. Will Hanna know that my goal is to help revitalize houses in Baltimore City for inner city people. I move away from that AMI. And the reason why, because they talks about the monthly average income. So I do low to moderate. So he's one of the guys that I reached out to a while back and became a part of his board to help him, excuse me, y'all, to turn this city around, the community, the Park Heights community. And that's what I do. Born and raised up here. I got clean in 1993 up here. It used to be a library around there on Park Heights. and Belvedere, somewhere like that. Just help me, I'm 59 now. Right, thank you. So I got clean right there, and my whole goal, from drugs and alcohol to gaming, all of that, my whole goal when I come in is to try to help the people that wants to come out. So that's part of why I love the 6th District. I helped Michelle Andrews run for the 6th District. I sent the message out to, what's her name? What's your district person name? Sharon Middleton.
Right.
Because number one, she represents them.
Right.
And I think that's a shame that you will not come out and talk to your people.
Did you hear back from her?
No, I did not. I don't hear from none of them.
All right. Well, we pointed out that we did invite Mrs. Green out to the town hall. And we even extended the opportunity for her to name the day and date and place of the town hall. But again, she declined to do that, saying that she was booked for the next 2 months. Dante Barksdale, Baltimore is familiar with you. Excuse me, Mr. Joe, familiar with you and what you're doing, particularly with your effort to help kids. Tell us a little more about yourself.
Yes, Taurus Barksdale, born and raised in Baltimore City, the 6th District. I'm looking around, I look like the youngest person in here. I'm 29 years old.
You might be.
Yeah. But I've been in this district my whole life, and I just got involved because as an adult now, I start to see things for what they really are. And I've been seeing these same issues since I've been a child that still exist to this day. And I'm a believer, and some people continue to say, oh, it's just that way. No, I believe we can do better, and I know my community can do better with the right leadership. So that's why I decided to get involved and continue to stay involved in my community.
All right, Mr. Hanna, we have a question for you. You work in the community with development. What will it take to get part of the city back on track, Mr. Hanna?
Leadership, period. It's the appropriate and right leadership. I've been in Park Heights for 35 years and came to Park Heights after living in some of the other worst neighborhoods in the city, Murphy Homes, Lexington Terrace, you name it. And so when I came to Park Heights 35 years ago, not much has changed. Not a whole lot has changed. The faces have changed, the conditions haven't. And so what needs to change in communities like Park Heights is leadership and accountability.
Right. Do you think those things are most important? Mr. Barksdale, again, you live here in the district. Your elected representative, they're not here tonight. Do you believe a lack of engagement from elected leaders is why you ran for office?
Yes, and even just hitting on why elected officials do not show up to town halls, if I can, I would like to address that. A lot of black citizens in Baltimore City, they perceive Fox News to be racist. So I think if Fox News worked on, trying to change that perception and probably just change that perception, elected officials wouldn't get that pass for not showing up to town halls that FOX45 hosts, even though I don't think that should be an excuse, because we elect those people. That is their duty to come listen to the people talk and hear the issues. So whether or not people perceive Fox to be racist or any type of perception, I believe it's still a duty of an elected official to always, come forth to their people when the opportunity is presented.
All right, now thank you. Thank you, Taurus. FOX45 has a live camera outside of the home of Sharon Green Middleton. Again, we did ask her to attend. Someone has spotted her going in or out of her home. So from our appearances, there doesn't appear to be a conflict, though she said she was booked for the next 2 months. We do want to point that out. Right. Mrs. Jones, what do you believe it says that the elected representatives who represent you aren't here tonight?
Well, I think that she actually me, Mr. Jones.
Mr. or Mrs. Jones, either one.
I think
your team.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the expectation of citizens when we elect officials is that here is our problem, here's what we think needs to happen, and write a check. It doesn't happen like that. So what we understand is there has to be plans to effectuating wellness in black communities, in a community like Baltimore. So I think getting an understanding of what the process is to healing black communities is key, not just for citizens, but also for leadership that are in office. And that's what we found that what has been lacking is just a proper understanding of protocol and how you walk down development, which is the key to really making a more robust community. Because if the city, a city's assets is a city's wealth lies in its assets. Even as Baltimore has between whatever the rumor is, 15 and 50,000 blighted homes, that real estate has a value, has a real value. And if people like me or my hue aren't allowed to create anchors of wellness in our own community, then we'll continue to experience the gentrification. So that's not an indictment of Sharon Middleton, not in the least bit, it's at all. It is an indictment of the system. And the system is what we are pushing back against. And just like even with the media piece, injustice can't live without proper marketing. So if
Mr. Jones, let me ask you about Park Heights Renaissance. That's been a controversial issue here in this area. They were charged with doing some redevelopment here, and there are a lot of people very frustrated that redevelopment hasn't happened.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think last year we were looking at reports from you guys that had about 9 million, and I think Will has reported it's about 11 million that has come through Park Heights Renaissance. But if you understand again the mechanism of how real estate is assigned to communities is through the Community Development Corporation. I learned a lot of that from Will. So as that is set aside, then you have to understand what is puppeteering that CDC. And what we found out and what I believe happened in August of last year is Mayor Jack Young struck a mighty blow against systemic racism by removing the housing commissioner. Because the nature of politics is transient, meaning every 4 to 6 years you're going to have somebody new. But these problems have been consistent over all of these years, 30, 40, 50 years, always been that way. So now, what Mayor Scott is saying that, and what the state's attorney is saying is that we're not going to keep fighting the symptoms. We're going to fight the system. And when you do that, you're going to be very unpopular. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Let me ask your wife a question. Ms. Jones, what are your thoughts about this? Because the state's attorney has received some criticism for saying publicly that she's not going to prosecute low-level crimes, and there are people, business owners among them, and you and your husband are business owners who believe that's creating a bad climate in Baltimore and contributing to the crime problem we're seeing now. What are your thoughts about that?
So I think if we're really honest, what we see currently is not laid at the feet of an individual. What we are seeing are the results of systemic issues and historic neglect of community and people. So I think it makes for good headlines to push the problem. I think it takes a much deeper investment to work towards a cure. And so by that I mean,
go ahead.
We're talking about housing, crime, addiction, healthcare, education, poverty.
About black people, and has been for many years.
Yes.
These systemic problems do lay at the feet.
No, they do not. And I'm sorry, sister. Always in the housing, in the city's wealth lies in its housing authority. So there's never been a black lead of a housing authority. Nobody votes the housing authority a commissioner in. Nobody votes the person in.
Well, that's a mayoral function.
That's a point. Say it again?
We vote people in who appoint those people.
And so how come the same commission has been there for 36, 40 years?
But Mr. Jones, let me go, even Mr. Hanna, I'm going to go back to this issue of Park Heights Renaissance because they're an organization responsible, they were at least, for helping revitalize a part of the community here which needed that development, and that hasn't happened.
Well, let me say this. When you have an organization, and I'll go back to the very origin of Park Heights Renaissance. Park Heights Renaissance was created from the 2006 Park Heights Master Plan. It was from the input from the community that there needed to be a development corporation created in the community to foster the development in Park and to implement the Park Heights Master Plan. In 2005, prior to that, there was a corporation that was here called Northwest Baltimore Corporation, who was then disbanded at the time by Delegate Salima Marriott when she wrote the legislation that created the Pimlico Community Development Authority. All of these are facts. So in doing that, Park Heights Renaissance had then only been funded $500,000 a year. That covered a lot of administrative costs, but then they didn't have the capacity to do development.
Why not?
Because they didn't have the funding. They didn't control that funding. So let me go to where the funding came from. Because at the time, and I want people to understand this very clearly, that Park Heights has never had a money problem. Park Heights has always had an accountability problem. So since 1972, you had what was called the Racetrack Impact Fund. These were funds that came directly from the Pimlico Racetrack at about $500,000 a year that went to fund, supposedly to fund development projects along the Park Heights corridor and then along the Park Heights community. In 2007, when Senate Bill 3 was passed, that created slots revenue. All right, when the slots were, and then in 2010, when the first slot parlors opened in the state of Maryland, that legislation said that no matter where they open slot parlors, anywhere in the state of Maryland, that Park Heights got a piece of that money. So now here we are, $38 million later, right, since 2010. It's been $38 million in just slots revenue. And so when we talk about their $70 million missing Park Heights, $38 million of that is that. Right. Park Heights Renaissance began to only control the funding up to last year. Before then, when you had $4.5 million coming to this community, and then you had $6.5 million coming to this community, PHR was getting about $500,000 of that, but that was for admin costs. Right. But the other $3.5 million was still stored in an account at housing. And this goes back to—
Earning interest?
Well, I would hope, but if it is, the community saw no benefit from that interest, or their interest wasn't in the community.
Let me go to one other question here, but I want to follow up on that point, Ms. Hand. We're not going to lose that, and we do appreciate that explanation of how we got to this point today, because that's important that he points that out. Mr. Copeland, we did invite, by the way, we're going to point out the CEO and COO of Park Heights Renaissance to the town hall tonight. Now, initially, they had expressed some interest, but then apparently decided not to attend tonight. What does it say to you that they're not here now?
Really, they disrespecting y'all.
Exactly.
They disrespecting y'all. Now, let me say this too. I am a member of Communities United of Baltimore, Maryland. We fight for the democracy of black people. So a lot of times I'm arguing with our politicians to do the right things for y'all, right? To go to you, Miss Lady, I just want to say this. When I step into anything, I come in with solutions. When I say I got over 28 years clean, I used to live the lifestyle, so I know how to come out and walk you out to help point your life in a better direction. So you understand how people been set up to kill each other off. Okay? Marfa 21 black genocide. That's what started making me mad. I fought this bill for safe consumption sites because of the opioid and the fentanyl who is killing. So I'm on Pennsylvania Avenue telling people, and Jack, I mean, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to stop me because I talk a lot.
We will in just a second. Wrap this point up and I'll get to my next question.
Real quick, I put my life on the line to fight for our people. People do not like me. They hate me.
It's okay.
He called me, it's his fault. He said, Steve, Giovanni, I know you don't like talking no more because I begin to do things in the silence now. I'm doing it under wrap, right? I go get what needs to be done without the politician.
All right, let me hold you right there, Mr. Copeland. FOX45 has reported on several projects, by the way, over the years where the Park Heights Renaissance seemed to kind of drop the ball. One of those was the housing development at the corner of, it was Park Heights Avenue, I think, back in 2017. Now, Mr. Hanna, you were kind of explaining the genesis of all of this a second ago.
So the project that they're talking about is Renaissance Road. That project is now almost complete. That project, but then now there are several other projects that were blamed for either on our CDC or PHR or whoever they thought was getting the money, but the projects didn't happen because there was no oversight at the state or the city level. Those are the facts.
How do we change the lack of oversight, which is the oversight, the accountability is one of the things Baltimore citizens continue to complain about?
Well, right now, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Let me just finish this one point. When state money comes to the city, the oversight lies with the state. There's a state comptroller, there's state elected officials that are supposed to say, you know what, if this money comes into my district, then I'm supposed to oversee and be a steward of that money. Regardless of who it goes to when it gets to the city, there's no oversight at the state level. There has not been any oversight of this money, which is state money. that comes to the city.
All right, Mr. Hannah-Holt, right there. I'm going to go to my colleague, Mackenzie Froshy. We've got a number of guests out here who want to say something. Mackenzie, thank you for being here tonight, and I know you want to talk to some of our guests here.
Definitely, thanks, Kai. I want to start with Pastor Thornton. Can you stand up for a second? I want to thank you again for hosting us here. You, this anchor of the community, what do you see as the biggest issues facing Park Heights and the solutions that are seemingly being missed right now by our elected leaders?
I don't have to list any issues of what's going on because we all know what's going on. From the top to the bottom, we have to come together and work on solutions. And I'm glad to hear that people are building bridges to one another and coming together and standing together and helping one another so that they can build capacity, so that we can build capacity to continue to strengthen this community. That's what I want to see happen, particularly with all these town halls that you all are going to have, that across the city, that you all will continue to reach out into the community and ask people to come together with solutions that are going to help us make this problem go away. It's not going to happen because you have Mayor Scott as the mayor or City Council woman Middleton. They're not going to be able to do it by themselves. It's going to take all of us.
Do they need to be at the table for it, though?
Everybody need to be at the table. Don't be afraid. Nobody's going to bite you. We just here trying to work together to build this place up and build our city up so it can really be Charm City.
Thank you. I want to go over here for a second because we've been hearing a lot of people. Will you stand up for a second for me, please? What's your name?
Michelle Townsend.
Michelle, you're from this area. Tell us, what are you missing from your leaders?
What I'm missing is, you know, the crime rate today. You know, I don't really know like what's going on or stuff like that. You know, they talking about the guns and the drugs, how we going to get the guns off the streets and stuff like that. This is how I think about it, you know, because actually I don't know what the governor and the mayor is actually doing, but the way how I think about it, how all these like guys keep on going to jail. They go to jail, they come out. They go to jail, come out. They so used to doing what they doing. That's why they keep on doing it. They need some kind of guidance. You know, they can go to jail, get out of jail, and then they get a temp job for 6 months. And then once that job gone, that's all they know is going back and do the same old thing. They just need some guidance, some help. Open up some recreation centers up for the kids and stuff. You know, I can walk up on Park Heights. I see things, keep my mouth shut. You know, little kids out here on the corner today. Imagine when the schools open back up. Do you seriously think school's going to be the way how it used to be? I don't think so. You're going to think your child in school and your child was out there on that corner selling drugs for the drug man because they saying what Baltimore City schools is failing. You know, and kids keep on hearing that, they're going to give up. You know? I can speak to them and everything is over with.
Thank you. When you talk about solutions, I actually had a conversation with somebody else earlier, and you had a lot of ideas about solutions. Will you stand up for me and introduce yourself?
My name is Thelonious Skeens. I'm not from Park Heights, I'm from West Baltimore. But I think for real that there's a real problem here. We need to bring in the National Guard right now. We got a domestic terrorism problem. These guys is killing people. They are terrorists. They're not Baltimore City citizens. They are terrorists and they should be dealt with like terrorists. There's comprehensive solutions that need to be addressed right here in Baltimore. I grew up as a troubled youth. Bring back the Charles Hickey School. Bring back Boys Village. Bring back Montrose. No, you don't want to lock them up, but put them in reform school so they can learn something. Bring back the schools where they can teach them something. Their parents are not watching them. Their parents are not watching them. What are you going to do?
You're going to lock them up?
No, I'm saying you not lock them up. Put them in reform school where they can get a trade. Put in vocational tech programs where they can learn something. Force them to get a GED. Force them to go to school and learn something. Because all of these talking points aren't working. You can say, lock them up. I'm talking about the terrorists on the street. I ain't talking about everyday children.
The terrorists down City Hall, or the terrorists in Annapolis, or the terrorists in the institution, but the children are not responsible.
Terrorists is killing people.
Okay, hey guys, we want to get back to the audience. We're going to get back to the audience. Let's get back to some of our questions. Let's get back to some of our questions, please. Great. No, this is debate. We're going to continue.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You have something to say?
You don't even have a high school in there.
1 second.
Let's get one more guest, Mackenzie, and then we'll get back on track.
Excuse me, I'm gonna talk.
Listen, we will get to as many people as we can.
We'll get back in a second.
We will come back. I want to talk to you guys.
This is why we can't get it together, because we out of unity. We got to get back in unity. Thank you. Thank you. I want to make.
Mackenzie's got one more. She's got one more guest. Go ahead,
I want to
Mackenzie.
make sure that we hear from as many people as we can.
Somebody to be wrong.
Thank you.
But then when they get finished, we can say what we want to say.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Let Mackenzie go.
All right.
Go ahead, Mackenzie.
Please, thank you. I want to get to as many people as we can, but we can only do that one at a time. One at a time, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheena Smith. First and foremost, our children are our future. The resources that we're spending to arrest and miseducate can clearly be diverted to the homes and the communities. You can identify resource centers in each one of these entities and put those resources there and support the parents, because clearly we do not make cocaine in America, okay? And I don't have all the time to really lay out the dynamics of what is happening in our community, but it's by design. And we understand there are many advocates that are around here, and we're watching, and we know exactly what is happening, and we will not allow you to assassinate our future. And so for you, brother, it's because you're misunderstood. I had three nephews that was murdered in Baltimore City. And I forgive those because they really didn't know what they were doing. They are not terrorists, but we have to first, I didn't interrupt you. Right. We must first start with love in our homes. Right. And when our parents are absent, we must support them. Right. You know, I helped my sister with her children because I knew she was sick. You understand? It is an addiction. Mayor Kurt Smoke had it best. Take the element of the financing out and treat it as an illness, because that's exactly what we're facing. We have been traumatized from slavery on down the pipe.
Thank you.
All right, let's get back to
Thank you.
Let's get back to some of our questions. I want to get back to the panel.
Yes.
Mackenzie, thank you.
Yeah, Kai will be back. We'll have more, and one at a time.
And
please.
thank you, each of our guests. I know it's a lot. Ms. Ann, I want to get back to the Park Heights Renaissance question for a second here, because you were making a good point about that. I didn't want to cut you off, but we know that there have been some promises made, but not necessarily promises kept, and a deadline was enacted in terms of getting some of this work done. Are you familiar with what happened and why those deadlines weren't met?
Well, I alluded to some of that previously. I think that when you have an organization that has a limited budget, but then you have $3.5 million, like if there was $4 million that came in slots revenue, but PHR got $500,000, then the other $3.5 million is the problem. It's where did that money go? It's not necessarily what the PHR do with their money. It's what happened to the other $3.5 million that has come in for the last decade. All right, we've been getting slots revenues in Park Heights since 2010. Absolutely. Okay, that's not all blamed on one entity. That's blamed on lack of oversight at the state level. So if we're saying that that we had $38 million in Park Heights as a total in slots revenue, well, PHR didn't get $38 million. So where did the rest of the money go, and where is it sitting?
And what's your estimate of where that money is?
And I think that's the issue. Now, I will say this.
Let me get to this point real quick. We do need to point out again, yes, let me point this out. We did invite our top elected leaders for the 6th District, which many of you all live here, of course, to attend. Councilwoman and Vice President of the City Council, Sharon Green Middleton, as you know, initially did accept our invitation. We're pointing this out because it's noteworthy, but she canceled, saying that she had a conflict. We also offered to hold the town hall on any day at any hour that would accommodate Ms. Middleton, and her assistant said that she's booked solid for at least the next 2 months. That's what Fox 45 was told. We also did invite Mayor Brandon Scott, but he too was refusing to come out and attend this town hall and hear from the people tonight. So we wanted to point that out. We also wanted to point out that we have been at Ms. Middleton's home in the area. We have a camera out there. We did see her moving back and forth. I don't know about her schedule, but again, we didn't see something that appeared to be a conflict of interest or book schedule. Fox 45 was out there tonight. I just want to talk about that. Let's get to crime, though. We have another pressing issue in the 6th District, and you all talked about this, and that's crime. Here's how the district stacks up to other city council districts, and we should point this out. Council District 6 leads the city in carjackings. That's been a problem in Baltimore in general. There's even a task force that deals with it. But it's also in the middle of the pack for homicides and also shootings, and I want someone to talk about this. Ms. Jones, let's start with you. violent crime in Baltimore is out of control. You're hearing from people say that here in the audience tonight. Do you think people don't fear legal consequences for their behavior, or what do you think is the reason for the drive in that crime, Ms. Jones?
So, and I say this as an educator in my heart, is that crime is the sneeze. It is an after effect of so many other things. It is when people do not have education, job training, job opportunities, family sustaining, wage earning jobs, and the equality equation. You know, I know it's really easy, and sister in the back, I heard you when you talked about your elected officials, and we should hold the people that are elected responsible for what they do on their watch. But let's be honest. In order to fix a crime issue, in order to fix a housing issue, in order to fix an education issue, it takes a concerted effort, and this is what the equality equation is about. Government, private industry, nonprofits, citizens working together to three economic drivers. And that is workforce development, because it can pencil out, have social impact, and be economically viable for private developers. Sports and recreation, somebody else said it, because that can also pencil out for developers, but heal the community. And then really to bring quality health care. And all three of these things working together in tandem, not trying to pick out one thread when you have a whole system that has worked collectively to keep a community where it is, then all of those systems have to then work together to help heal it. And it can't happen with one piece. It has to happen as a concert.
How do you get those other partners to the table?
Well, I will tell you.
Yes, they've been very receptive to what we presented. Yolanda with PHR, Mayor Scott, and even in our campaign with Taurus here, I created his campaign as his campaign to, sort of bash Sharon Middleton. But when you finally sit down and talk to her, you understand that she loves the community. The problem is that everybody, if it's 60 people in here, there's 45 ideas that everybody wants to bring. Mm-hmm. But when you bring real laid out plans that include honoring politicians and their need to be in the spotlight, honoring the citizens and their need to heal, whether it's education, sports and recreation, or health, then you're able to include everybody.
Mr. Jones.
You cannot exclude, cannot exclude a politician and create incendiary types of atmospheres. Well, what happens is everybody got a bone to pick, and as soon as you say their bone, they raise up and they're ready to go. And one thing I do want to also catch too, because we were talking about crime. Right. Professor Larry
That's my next question.
Yeah, he got a lot of pushback a couple of weeks ago in regards to pointing out that Baltimore's crime has actually dropped. The homicide has stayed steadily the same.
Black lives over the past 10 years.
Yeah, but if you compare that to what's happening nationally, nobody's trying. Hey, listen. Hey, puff your chest down. Take it all the way down to zero. Because I'm not that guy. I am not that guy.
All right, Mr. Jones.
Yes, but
Mr. Jones, I got to ask you about this. Mr. Jones, wait a minute. Gentlemen, wait a minute. Whoa. I'm running the town hall. And I'm not being rude, but I'm the host here. So let's stop for a second. I got a question. Are the policies of the city state's attorney fueling some of the problem, Mr. Jones?
Absolutely not. She ended the war on drugs. And what that is essentially saying, we're not going to arrest frivolously people that are crimes that don't harm anything but themselves. So that is that when Reagan brought in the war on drugs, it was just a move from Nixon in '72, who explicitly stated this is to keep the prison industrial complex going. It has just changed the marketing. Right now, it's just the school to prison pipeline. If you ignore trends, I'm not jumping on you, Giovanni. But if you ignore trends, if you say in Baltimore, the policy that the state's attorney put in has reduced crime as in comparison to the United States, where all these other cities are having 25% growth in homicides, ours is staying steady, and our crime is being reduced by 4%, and everybody else is going, no. There's no.
Mr. Jones, you're
being incendiary, sir.
Mr. Jones.
You're being
Mr. Jones, there are people who disagree with you, who believe that those that are announcing this is fueling the problem.
This is how it goes. When Schaefer, Glendenning, O'Malley, when they're mayor, then they are seen as the white messiah. They are coming to save us. When Brandon Scott, and probably the greatest mayor we ever had, Kurt Smoke, was in the spot, it was always crime that was an issue.
All right, Mr. Hanna, let me get, first of all, Mr. Barksdale, you had a question. Go ahead. You had a point you wanted to make? Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's pretty clear that the community is not really happy with the way, even if the crime rate is going down, I think it's pretty clear that the community is not satisfied with the crime rate where it's at. It's still high. At the end of the day, it's still high. So I think more can be done. And even if you decriminalize things, not prosecute lower level crimes, I believe the resources should follow. I don't see the resources following, the crimes that are no longer being prosecuted, such as prostitution. Right. That's something my community association, we talk about all the time that we don't want to see in our community. Right. Okay, we don't lock them up, but where are the resources for those individuals? Right. Where are the resources for the, the drug addicts?
Right, well, so far, though, Baltimore has seen 182 murders so far this year. It's more than this time last year. What do you say to that mother, their father, that aunt, that grandmother who's lost their kid? Saying that crime rate has gone down doesn't mean anything to them if they've lost a child.
Yeah, you can't take what the real problem is, and it's economics. Right. Economics changes everything. If we come in and to redevelop our whole, economics changes things. To pull out in a silo that this is a
economics is part of the...
Economics is the big... Then why in the world,
Let me get Mr. Hanna. Mr. Hanna, you had a point you wanted to make.
So better communities in the 60s, and now people weren't making good money.
And you know what happened in the 60s? And you know what happened in the 60s? What turned that over? What turned that over?
Let's go back to the old school.
Yes.
You child did something, I correct your child.
Thank you.
That's what it's all about.
We were community.
Back to the old school. We need to go back to the old school. You see your child doing something.
Mr. Hanna, let me get Mr. Hanna. Mr. Hanna, please go ahead.
Let's go back to the
Wait a minute.
Mr. Hanna.
When they took the rights of the parents to correct their child, they didn't correct their children. That's why it's being off the track.
Mr. Hanna, go ahead. Please, go ahead. Let's listen to Mr. Hanna, please. Go ahead.
So let me say this.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to be respectful.
Go ahead. I know.
So let me say this.
And the war on drugs and that stop the violence.
There's two things. Absolutely. When you look at developing a community, right? When you look at the entire thing in developing the community, it is difficult. And I'm gonna leave y'all with this number, 45 million. And I'm gonna tell you what that number is. 45 million is the amount of money that we pay in police overtime. $45 million a year is what we pay in police overtime. Do you know $45 million, we could train 1,500 people and hire them and pay them $40,000 a year?
Absolutely.
With that same $45 million. So as either we can do it on the front end or we do it in the back end. I agree with Plus when he says it's economic. It is economic, but it's hard to go to the real estate portion and the values in our communities if we don't fix crime. And you can do both things at the same time. You can stop crime and hire people and train the same people and do the exact same thing at the same time. You have to do it on two tracks. Exactly. You can't do one. You can't build a bunch of nice shiny buildings and say that we're going to change this neighborhood. And you can't say we're going to train people and not redevelop the community. And you have to do them both at the same time. So there has to be human development along with community development at the same time. We're not developing people, we're not changing the neighborhood.
Okay, let me point this out too. I think it's also important to note and to point out that Councilwoman Sharon Green Middleton, I've been saying this, we're going to continue to say it, because she should be here tonight. According to a lot of the folks right here in this audience, we did ask her to come out. She declined. She serves this district, and Fox 45 had a camera at her home. We don't know why she wasn't here tonight, but she declined to come out, even when Fox 45 offered her to pick the day and the date for this.
That's sensationalized. That's sensationalizing. That's absolutely what it is. The people you parade on Fox from our community that consistently tear us down in that manner, we know it's economics. You only treat it, like my wife said, a sneeze when you try to figure out how we do something with these children. It's economics. We start from the top. The wealth in a city lies in its real estate assets.
All right,
Why does the housing commissioners always have these kind of backdoor deals that's going on? And then when you spoke about PHR and what this young lady is doing, I know for a fact that she helped us stop a procurement that was going through with the city that had got infiltrated by some people that were not for our best interest. So when you talk about this lady in PR, she's been there for what, a year, if that? It's transient. So you look back, and when they stopped funding that, it's because she came in and they could not control the director. So if you really want to understand what was going on, look deeper and stop looking at certain kind of media outlets and declaring that, because it resonates with me that this is the whole problem. It is not.
Can I follow what Plus is saying?
Please, go ahead, Mr. Hanna.
Let me follow what Plus is saying. Because I think when people look at Park Heights, they look at historically what is happening. They've looked at historically what has happened in Park Heights. We know that there have been some things that haven't gone well in Park Heights. We know that there's some money that hasn't been spent the right way. We know all of those things. But when I can tell you this, and I'll echo the same thing that Plus said, that when Yolanda came in, and I'll Miss Jiggets, right? When Yolanda came in and we met and I sat down with her and she told me what she was going to do. And I can tell you this, that since she's been there, I cannot speak to
Mr. Hanna, is anything happening now? Is anything happening now?
Absolutely.
Is anything happening now?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Yolanda Jiggets. I'm the director of Park Heights Renaissance.
No, we didn't think you were going to attend, so we want to thank you for being here.
My evening to try to make it here. I thought it was important that we were represented.
We want to thank you, and we want to be respectful. But Yolanda, can you tell us in terms of accountability why the citizens of Park Heights aren't seeing more in terms of the development which your organization has been charged with leading?
How long do you have?
We don't have that long, but you can give it to me in a snapshot.
It's a very complex question, and if you look at the history and really understand, a lot of this is about understanding the history. Park Heights, I'm a native of Park Heights, born and bred, so I'm coming back to my community with information and experience to help move the needle on the community development strategy. But what I want to say to you and to the residents here is I sentiment everything that Miss Pat just said.
She's been in a number of our town halls. We know Miss Pat.
One of the largest dynamics around community development is community engagement and community unity. This community has been divided for years because of systemic practices that have had us fighting for pennies, right? There has never been the proper resources put in place to effectively move the needle on community development.
But isn't that Councilwoman Green Middleton's job, Yolanda?
All of our job. Exactly. It takes a village. After years and years and generations of disinvestment, you cannot think that one council person, one Park Heights Renaissance, one Neighborhoods United. We have to come to the table and deal with the facts that happen to this community and the amount of resources that are needed collectively at one time. We have been given pennies over years to fight about, and in reality, we need billions of dollars poured into Park Heights to redevelop this community.
All right, let me get back. I want to thank you, Yolanda, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for explaining. I know it was a shortened version, but I would ask you if you'll talk to Fox 45 in the future. We would love to have a greater conversation with you about some of the challenges and also some of the accountability. That's equally important. We have to talk about that as well. Is that fair enough? Absolutely. All right, thank you. Let's get back. I do want to point out, let me talk about this because Yolanda talked about this. Mrs. Green Middleton isn't here tonight. We want to let people know who don't know that, and I know most of you do, that she's represented this district for some 14 years. She serves as the council's vice president. We're being respectful to her, and that is a lot of influence and also a lot of power. She's a Democrat. We were talking about running recently. She won the last election with 64% of the vote, so that's an overwhelming majority. Mr. Jones, with such a powerful council person, do you think, and this is your opinion, of course, do you think there should be more money flowing into the district? I know this is not a simple thing, though.
Right. No, absolutely. I think that it is like a faucet that the housing commissioner always used to leverage in and around Park Heights. So, yeah, there should be more money coming, but there has to be a viable plan. Our Equality Equation Project, and we work with Mayor Scott on this too, has 3 anchors that effectuate wellness in black communities: health and wellness, sports and recreation, and workforce development and education. What we found is that those same subsidies they use to gentrify, they can use to build those anchors in our community. Yes. But yes, we know that, right? We know that intrinsically. But what we have to do is set a plan to that. So after we spent 4 years or so setting a plan, we were ready to go to Yolanda and Mayor Scott and DHCD and Alice Kennedy, and we said, here's our plan. And Mayor Scott said, okay, Deputy Mayor Clark, here, I need you to assign to this. You go and walk this out. Deputy Mayor assigned all the other pieces. The relationship we need with the Baltimore City Schools, the relationships we need with the Department of Social Services, that do the things that a plan is set that does it, to effectuate wellness in the black community.
All right, Mr. Jones, I got to get the other guests in here tonight because we want to make sure that we distribute this equally. Mr. Copeland, I want to ask you too about this development and component piece here in the Park Heights area.
I hope Will don't mind me saying this.
Say it like it is, man. That's what we need, the truth.
I was getting ready to walk out because I get sick and tired of people coming in here just talking about the same things over. This is 2021, not 1965, not 1947 when Orswell and all of them would do what they do. But excuse me, because I'm real passionate about what I do, right? I hope he don't mind me sharing this. I got with the Park Heights Community Development Corporation to help him develop in this area. I was part of the, help me, Will, come on, help me, the land trust. The land trust. He got 280 houses in the land trust. He fixed a proposal where I could get 30 of them to build in Park Heights. They don't give Will money to work up here. And I'm not trying to be smart, don't get me wrong. They give it to you, they gave it to the people in Philly. Why? Because they know y'all gonna follow their stuff. He don't take their stuff. He like me. That's why he don't ask them for nothing. I went and got a lender to help us get what we could get.
All right, let me hold you right there. I want to get my colleague Mackenzie Frost right in. She's got some more audience questions. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Kai, thanks. Again, I want to get to as many people as we can, but we can only do that if we do not talk over each other. So first, please introduce yourself.
Hi, KJ.
KJ, thanks. What are you seeing in your community right now, and what's your biggest question or issue that you're seeing?
Well, just here tonight, I'm just seeing a lot of people make excuses. I mean, this is the real epidemic right now, and I'm listening to the panel, except for Mr. Copeland, but the 2 people on the end, they are making excuses for our elected officials. Again, they were invited here tonight and they didn't come. So what does that say about what we mean to them? Number 2, you know, how many people voted for this woman? How many people, by a show of hands, voted for Sharon Middleton? Then we all at fault for this. We're all at fault for this because we keep voting these people in. There needs to be a recall election. Number 3, you talk about crime. It all starts with education, and they're failing our children. And the mayor keeps appointing these people on the school board, and the school board keeps Dr. Santalese in office. Look what we have here. Last night they said 41% of our children are failing. They have a 1% GPA, they said on the news last night. And you guys making excuses for these people. It's them. The buck stops here. Kwasi Mfume came on the news yesterday and said that he has gotten money for the mayor, and he gives it to the mayor, and the mayor needs to allocate it. So why is she complaining about not having the funds to do this stuff? They need to be recalled. And everybody in here who keeps voting these people in are failing our children too. I got one last thing. You want to talk about names? We got Hezekiah Pettiford, 15 years old. Jaleel Jones, 15 years old. Perry Williams, 18 years old. These are our children that are dying here in the street. And this man and this woman are here making excuses for these elected officials and for the mayor. You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
You ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Thank you. Let's talk over here.
We saw you walking the door with your script in your hand. We understand that it's trolling.
Go
get him, baby.
So
Let me say this. First of all,
1 second.
Can I respond for just 1 second?
Quickly.
First of all, let's be honest that it is horrible every life that we lose in our communities, period, because those are irreplaceable and invaluable. But let me also be real. You talk about a recall election. I don't know how many years Sharon Middleton Green has been reelected.
She's been in office for 14 years.
She's been in office for 14 years. So now in 2021, because, and excuse me not to talk ill of FOX45, because we strum up the people and then we do the little poll question at the end of a piece.
Right.
So do you think we should have a recall election and somebody take the hook and bait?
Hook, line,
and now it's all about a recall election for somebody been in office for 14 years.
You gotta be
the truth of the matter is that to adjust the community will take multi-pronged approach. The solution is in this room. And if you voted for these people, then you are part of the solution. The solution is in this room. And it is everybody working together.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's get some more people who have some questions. What would you like to say?
And Mackenzie, I have someone over here who wants to talk with you after your guest says.
Okay, okay. First of all, 1 second, please.
Hi, I applaud.
Go ahead.
I applaud Mr. Hanna and the gentleman in the middle for your redevelopment efforts. And when the young lady passed this out, and
where did you get this?
I think Park Heights Renaissance. When I look at 163 unit apartments, 84 unit apartments. Why do we keep forcing our people into apartments, low income apartments? We need to build paths to ownership, to build legacy for our children.
Yes.
So this disgusts me. This totally disgusts me.
Yolanda, can you respond to that? Yolanda, let me get Yolanda.
Yes, thank you.
So these are projects that have been well underway for years before I came to PHR. And I am with you. We are a large community. It is a diverse community. We need mixed development opportunities. There are going to be some people who need rental properties, affordable rental. There are going to be some people who need let me finish if you're going to ask me, low income housing, and there are going to be people who want to purchase homes. We are working to try to effectuate all of that. I've been in office at PHR for 1 year and a half under a national pandemic. Under that pandemic, we did everything we could to support this community in human resources, food access, and everything in between, from assisting with the schools, returning to school, getting children supplies, and we started a development project that has been standing for a long time. FOX45 has covered it for years, and we now have 11 homes in the 2600 block of Loyola Northway. Last year, this time, we would have said it would have never happened.
But don't Baltimoreans need more homes? Home ownership is the primary way blacks have gotten wealth in this country.
And that's what we need to do as a community. We're all talking about the same issues tonight, but we are yelling at one another. Join us and come to our next community meeting on August the 12th. Let's all get together and map out a plan together. And we stand together and understand what we need. And we go to our legislators and work together. You are the power. You are the citizens. Everybody works for you. But they're not going to be able to assist every single one of your issues. We have to come together and develop priorities. And we have to use the funding that we have effectively on the priorities that we indicate. And then we have to identify additional funding resources, whether that's us fundraising, whether that's us going down to Annapolis, lobbying. Like, we have to get organized, because none of us in here feel different about the issues that are happening in the community.
All right, right there. Let's get back and quickly, Mackenzie. Thank you, Yolanda. Thank you so much.
Quickly.
Can I say something? I live in the 2500 block of Loyola Northway. I appreciate what you're doing in 26. But I am a homeowner in the 2500. I have a building falling down beside me. I have called and called and called. I ain't getting no help. So why should I look at a house in the next block, which I've been in the neighborhood for 20-something years, and you're not helping me? I'm proud for that. I'm proud for the $2,000 y'all selling it for. That brings me up. But what do you do when the house next to me is falling down?
Yolanda, that's an issue that we have heard, and I've talked to a lot of people who have lived in this neighborhood for decades, and they're homeowners, and they're sandwiched between these houses that are falling down and their house is crumbling, and they want to stay in their home, but they can't. What can the city do about that?
Quickly.
I'm not a city official, first of all. I'm the director of a nonprofit organization that partners with the community.
What can you do?
What can I do is advocate for them. And if you would come to our community meetings, you would hear that one of my top priorities is trying to develop strategies and resources for legacy residents that live in Park Heights.
All right, Ms. Yolanda, thank you. Quickly, yeah, give me 1 second. Our future district, by the way, does rest in the hands of our children, as we know. Let's talk about education. So our final topic tonight, really quickly, the most important tool for success, education. I think that's been discussed in here tonight. Saving lives, of course, getting the violence under control. District 6, though, is a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to education, and I think, Ms. Jones, you pointed that out as well. Now, we do have some of the best schools we know in the Roland Park area, like Poly, Western, of course, further out City College, things like that. But what about these other schools in the city around this area as well? How are they doing, and how do we improve education for our students? Mr. Barksdale.
I believe it really starts at home, and then it also starts with the parents. My mother was a teacher for 31 years in Baltimore City. We need more homegrown teachers from Baltimore City because our people respect our people the most, as far as when it comes to teaching. So we need higher pay as well for our teachers. Our teachers really get paid, low, and I was bred from a teacher. And also more resources, more aftercare programs. This pandemic has made set our children back so far back. We need more investment in education and after-school programs. And also, one thing when we was talking about the police, what happened to the PAL resource centers? We have probably the largest gap between the relationship between the police and our community. We need PAL centers back that bridge that the disconnection. But as far as education, we need more teachers coming directly from our communities.
Taurus, thank you. Quickly, Mr. Hanna, are school leaders doing enough to improve city schools, and elected leaders as well?
Well, I'll speak on the schools in Park Heights. We've had probably, while we have some of the newer schools that have been built in Arlington and Pimlico, and so we've had some of the newer schools, but we've had schools that have closed. And part of the problem that we've had with education in Park Heights is that we converted 5 elementary schools into K-8s, and that caused a problem when you had to close Pimlico, then you had to close Garrison, and then that led to the feeder schools that weren't feeding schools like Northwestern. And so that became part of the problem in Park Heights. So now you broke up the K-8s, but then the community But the people that lived in the community that couldn't get to those schools, they moved out of the community, and those schools then began to lose population, like Langston Hughes, like Dr. King, like Malcolm X. Like all of those schools that are named after prominent people in this community are all closed.
Right, but are the school leaders doing enough to improve the schools in your estimation?
No. Absolutely not. And I would think anything, we can always do better, right? We can always do better. Nothing's going to be as bad as it can be, and it's not as great as it can be. But when we look at schools like Pimlico, and I look at a school like Arlington, and I look at, what's the new one on Liberty Heights? And then schools like Forest Park was Calvin Rodwell. Right. So you look at this area, and we probably have more new schools in this area than any district in the city. But the quality of the education hasn't changed, just the building look better. Right. And so we're not changing the quality of the education.
And so that's the point. How do we improve that?
I also think, quickly. We're in Park Heights, and we need a bunch of development.
20 seconds, and now I got to close.
We're a bunch of development on the way for Park Heights, but the citizens from Park Heights are not skilled to get those jobs. Maybe for areas such as District 6, we should have workforce development programs directly in our communities to train our men to get these jobs that are coming.
I've got to close. I want to thank each of our guests here tonight. I want to thank the audience members tonight. I know this has been a bit contentious at times, but it shows the concern, the passion for making things better. And I want to thank each and every one of you. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Mr. Copeland, Mr. Barksdale, Mr. Hanna, thank you all very much. Here's a little note, a postscript to our discussion in District 6. I want to point this out. It's never easy to take on difficult topics. Of course, we know that. We had those here tonight. We want to thank our guests. Violent crime we're dealing with, crumbling buildings, and also economic challenges here in Sharon Green Middleton's district are complex, and they're also daunting. But change is not going to happen unless we come together and have discussions like these tonight, and that's why I want to thank each of our guests for coming out here tonight and offering solutions to these problems. Again, we want to thank our panel and also the concerned neighbors who came out here tonight. We want to thank the pastor for allowing us to be here. Our collective goal to build a better Baltimore. So let's hope some of our elected leaders will show up at the next town hall. I'm Kai Jackson. Thank you very much, and have a good day.